Well, good morning there, and welcome to another edition of This Morning with Solivity. We are so happy that you're here. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I'm joined today by some very, very beautiful and special friends of mine, Candice, Harper, and Sheila Applegate. Good morning, ladies.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
I love that good morning. I love that choral good morning. Now how has your week been so far, ladies? Sheila, what's been going on?
I've had a good week. I got through a couple projects that I was working on and spent time with friends so far.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Candy, what about you?
I can't complain. I've been in my home renovation stage for a
Yeah,
few
that's
weeks now.
right.
Yeah, and it's been fun. Wes and I are doing all kinds of interesting things. We're going to get paint today, so
No, oh, that's always
That is
exciting.
fun.
right.
The paint color fan and kind of looking at all the late. So did we do this color or that color? And they
Yeah.
all look. You start seeing the differences in all the colors, right?
Right. There's beige, natural beige, white, beige, and less than white. It's like,
Yeah, I want to meet the person that comes up with the paint names like angelic light,
right.
ethereal blue.
There's one that I'm enjoying right now. It's called Blank Canvas, which is like it
Oh,
excites me because
Mm,
that sort of thing. I always talk about
ooh,
cleaning the slate, and
hello.
yeah.
so yeah, I'm excited about that color. I think that might be the one I choose today.
Well, speaking of, a clean slate, we've got another great hot topics day with a very special hot topic we're going to be talking about today. But before we begin, as always, I just want to remind all of our listeners, listen, we want your questions, your comments, your thoughts. This is an interactive conversation. This is all about a conversation to empower you so you can start your day off wonderfully. Just post right to our chats either on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll do a shout out to you. We'll get those comments up on our live screen. So, ladies, I'm going to blame Sheila for this one because Sheila came up, she was like, "We need to talk about this." And I was
Yes,
like,
we do.
"Ooh,
Right?
that sounds good." And so, Sheila, you want to kind of start us off with how you came up with this topic?
Yeah. So, as most people probably have heard, the term emotional affair has been kind of trending in use for a few years now, at least. And every time that I hear it, I cringe.
Mm.
Mm.
And it feels so layered. And I thought, well, I want to, unpack all the layers of this with someone. And who better to do that with than Brian and Candy?
Right?
I'm always like a kid in a candy store right now. Like, ooh, this is going to be good. Oh man. I mean, so well, my first question to you, what were the layers? Like, what were some of the things that
Some of the
came up
things.
for you?
Yeah. So, first of all, it feels like it's infused with blame and guilt.
Mm.
Um,
Mm, mm,
and it's putting a term on an unhealthy aspect of a relationship that kind of takes the blame and puts it on one person and or somebody outside of the relationship,
Mm.
and probably usually women. So there's a layer of, um, is it putting a shame on a woman that maybe didn't deserve it,
right, right.
So there's that, and then it just actually goes against so much of what I believe in relationships which is being responsible and, transparent with each other. So it's to me, it's like just emphasizing an old paradigm and dragging it in to the present.
Right.
Mm.
Right. I was reading, and then I'm going to go to you, Candy, on that same question. I was
Yeah.
reading a quick article about this, and I even have a problem with how that term is defined.
Yeah.
Let's go read this. It says emotional affairs are defined as a platonic or friendly feelings toward another person that gradually turn into a romantic or sexual one while you're in a monogamous relationship with someone else. Simply put, an emotional affair crosses the boundary of friendship and veers off into an inappropriate path. Okay, so what's inappropriate and all that kind of stuff. These types of affairs are increasingly common. The American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy reported that 45% of men and 35% of women have admitted to having some sort of emotional affair, which is more than 20% more than people who admit to having a physical one. And again, does that even answer any questions for anybody? I mean, Candy, so when you heard this, what were the layers that you did first of all, did you have layers to it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there are layers to it because there's that sort of evolved approach, which, I always like to look at whatever research, whatever we're going to talk about with like, how can I look at it in an evolved way? And then how do I look at it as my ego self?
Right.
Right? And my
Right.
ego self is used to that old paradigm of possession. Like,
Ooh.
we're together, you're mine. And if you talk to anybody else or have sex with anyone else or have an emotional connection with someone else, you are
Right.
somehow victimizing me.
Right.
And so
Right.
I love what Sheila's saying. What really resonates is that, in our growth and evolution, it's that understanding that no one owns anyone.
Ooh.
And whatever we do as we move in and out and navigate relationships, it's all a signal of what we need to heal, what kind of shame story we have, what kind of understanding we have of self-relationship. Like if I really have a solid relationship with myself, I don't need to own you.
Right.
I can understand that we can have different dynamics at different times and also have a level of ground rules for what is needs to be communicated, right? Like if you're starting to feel attracted to someone, I'm your partner. So you ought to be able to tell me without without like harsh consequences.
Right.
Ooh. When I was thinking about this, I think about the fact that I'm talking about this from a male point of view. So I just want to be clear. Men aren't taught to be emotional.
Right.
We're not taught to express ourselves that way. We're not taught to really, be intimate, emotionally intimate with a partner, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the life is changing where men are becoming more about that, right? So, so I feel as though there's sometimes where when men are opening up to that space and they're now connecting with another person, regardless of whether or not it's a member of the opposite sex or not, because there's all different types of sexual relationships now, and or have been, and so the other person, how does the other person take that in? And I love the fact that both of you were saying that, listen, no one owns anyone else. And so if someone is having a truly deep emotional connection with someone else, that's helpful to that person. Not that it's like taking you out of the relationship or any. I think that sometimes that can be skewed into one person saying, oh, well, you're having an emotional affair.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important to realize, like, as men, first of all, we have suppressed our emotions in our society way too much. I mean, that's just,
exactly.
We know that, and especially to men. So if a man is opening up to their emotional side more, there probably aren't friends that they've been in contact with that are also opening up to that, right? So, so they may be likely to find that openness in another woman. And then when we talk about it being a colleague, if people are working with, I'm kind of diverting it. I stopped and changed halfway through here. It jumped in my mind. Like when you're talking about, because of the suppression of women, right? So it's natural. You spend time with colleagues like Brian, you and Candy and I, we talk, right? So
exactly.
There is a bond. And, it can also then target women in the workforce if we don't get this under control and understand
Oh,
what's really
yeah,
going on, right? Because
yeah,
somebody's just naturally talking to a colleague and now accused of being in an emotional affair when she didn't realize it, So I feel like it has the
right.
potential to do a lot of harm also to the people who are just innocently having conversations.
Mm.
And, I look at it too, like, should our workforce even change a little bit? I mean, shouldn't we have some more kind of emotional context in our workplace where where we're showing a little deeper, like yesterday we were talking about empathy, where we're having a deeper sense of empathy with our coworkers. Well, you
Mhm.
can't get to empathy if you're not showing emotion or you're not putting yourself in the other person's shoes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's like suck it up, And so,
Yeah.
and so this is so, I mean, it's so deep. That's why I was like chomping at the bit to get into this one,
Yeah.
because again, depending upon what our capacity to give and receive love a lot of times dictates what our perception is of another person giving and receiving love or emotional support to someone else, right? Being
Yeah.
able to see that and let it be okay, right?
Right.
In our own mind and heart, Candy, I'll give you the last thought for this segment. What are you thinking? I can see you over there. I can see you.
Well, it's that balance, right, between being present to what you guys are saying and then also thinking about, what comes up for me around it. And, normally when I work with people, I'm working with them sort of at the precipice of creating relationship.
Hmm.
It's rare that it's at a point where it's completely broken down. But I think too, to point to what you guys are saying, especially in the workplace. Now, I haven't been, since before COVID, someone who goes to an office, right? I work remotely.
Right.
But, in thinking about social climate, when I did used to go to an office or a TV studio, there was a level of disconnection and abuse that was allowed 10, 20 years ago in the
Hmm.
workplace that
Mhm.
I think people are less tolerant of now.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
Yeah.
think because of that, like what you're pointing at, Brian, it is more important to be empathetic and to be emotionally mature and intellectual and intelligent when dealing with coworkers. And you know how people often have like their work wife, their work husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Which could
think,
be a problem too,
well, I
for
mean,
some people.
yeah, it becomes a problem for people, I think, when going back to the whole possession thing, if I'm the partner who's at home or the partner who's not at the job, and I feel like something's being taken from me. And so I think
Right.
that's the thing to look at. It's like
Mhm.
the partner at home, whether it's a woman or a man, if I feel like my partner's interest or connection with someone else means I'm losing out, like I have to look at that, like what needs to be healed, what needs to be communicated around that for myself.
Right.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we're going to stay on this topic, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about emotional affairs. Dum dum dum. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Solivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part
of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Solivity. We are talking about emotional affairs. Dum, dum, dum. Question for both of you. Is our society and its expectations of romantic relationships part of the problem? What do you think?
I think it is. I think that I hope the paradigm is changing of how we view romantic relationships, but if you think of in the 50s and,
Right.
moving through time, we have a lot of expectations for romantic relationships, that person should be our everything, right? It give us meet all our emotional, physical, and spiritual needs, which we don't ever put on other relationships. And
No.
so I think what happens is that we move into having a relationship with the form and we lose each other.
Right.
And when those rules are put on a relationship in the beginning, I think it's okay to some degree. Like, to me, I think of it as group coaching. If you put the rules around, you know what to expect and you feel safe opening up, but that doesn't last forever. That if you're going to take the relationship to a deep level, you have to move beyond those rules and start being completely vulnerable and true to each other.
Wow. Love that. Candy?
Well, I mean, I feel like at the heart of all society's ills is our need for instant gratification, right? So I think that what area of life is any more affected by that than our romantic relationships? And so, not just instant, but consistent. And like to point to what Sheila was saying about expecting someone to be your everything, but also expecting them to always gratify you. Right. Which we do it very subconsciously, I think. Like I find myself, just moving through life and then like, oh, I didn't get it the way I wanted. Oh, I wish you would remember to do that. Or it's that constant, I should have been gratified in the moment. And it's that willingness to slow down and say, no, like that's the whole point of a relationship is to partner and move in and out and through the good times and the bad times and the conflict and the, when we're loving each other and have affinity and continue relating and growing.
Right.
Not, oh, we're together now, so everything should be wonderful all the time.
Well, I call that the Disney Cinderella syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where first we're taught, oh well, you come together and you have this chemical and this chemistry and it's love, and you start singing songs to each other, and then you move into getting into some type of formal relationship. May it be just that you're in a monogamous relationship, marriage, whatever it is, because I'm cool with it. As long whatever's cool with you is cool with me. But then there's this thing that I remember my parents during their practice would always talk about, and that is you get together, you say, oh, I love you so much, now change, right? And the change part of it is you're supposed to please me 24/7 all the time and complete me in terms of like I might have this emotional wound, but you're supposed to fix that. You're supposed to fix that. I'm not supposed to deal with it. You're supposed to fix it so that I don't feel it, and that's just not real. That's just not real. And then all that other stuff around, like, what you think is an emotional affair, how you define it, and all that pumps up as well. Oh, I saw you. Yeah, go ahead, Candy.
Oh no, I was just going to say, because before I lose the thought based on what you were saying, it's that, trying to heal the old wound. So, a lot of times we go right into our adulthood and we're trying to heal, trauma from our parents and stuff like that. And so I need you to heal me. I need you to heal me. I need you to love me enough that I'm okay is
Right.
often playing in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sheila, is it reasonable that one person meet all our emotional needs?
No.
And thank you for listening to This Morning with Solivity.
And
who wants that job, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, and
right. Snaps on that.
Exactly. Like, if you're doing that, then you're not meeting your own emotional need. First of all, you're not ever going to do it. And then even if you try, you're not meeting your own emotional needs. So you're getting further and further apart. So it's going to spiral if you're looking for that. And I think that's, like we said, a lot of women in our society have relationships that they are people they're friends with, women they're friends with, and they have deep bonds and they share things, and it's not as normalized for men. So it adds an extra dimension for the men to try to do that. I think they end up shutting down their emotions to support the female, or if it's, a same-sex relationship, play that over another. Although I do think that you're almost further ahead in a same-sex relationship because you're already stepping outside of the societal expectations. So there's more freedom sometimes. Not that they can't fall into it, but I think more freedom to explore what's right for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think about in whatever relationship it is, typically there's a dynamic where one person is more emotionally aware than the other person. They have a higher level of EQ.
Right.
And so there's always going to be this kind of imbalance. And so the trick is to understand that before or as you're going into the relationship, right? And that and that you understand, Candy, you said this so beautifully, that the relationship is there to help support each person in their own personal growth.
Right.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. And that that you don't feel alone as you're walking your journey, and that you got somebody you can look to the right of you and says, you got this, babe. You got this.
Right.
Again, I'm loving this topic. I told you, I was chomping at the bit for this one. Listen, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about an important part of this, which is this about transparency and communication too? So kind of think about that, y'all, and we'll be back with more of This Morning with Solivity in about 2 minutes.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose, Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian Wesley Johnson. I'm joined by my beautiful co-hosts, Sheila Applegate and Candice Harper. And we are talking about emotional affairs. It's been trending on social media as of late. And we decided we wanted to have a empowered conversation about it with a little spice, a little hot sauce on it too. One part of this conversation that I think that's important is the juxtaposing transparency and communication with the other person as opposed to, I guess, a psychosis. Just the people just kind of like moving through, and you're cheating on me. What do you guys think? Does transparency and communication play a role in all of this?
I mean, definitely. If I can jump in, like I always say, acceptance is the antidote to shame, right? Meaning that if I'm partnering with someone, if I'm transparent myself and accepting of myself, I can be accepting of you. And when I can be accepting of you, I can support you in diffusing your shame around communicating with me. And so, I think in the article that you shared with us, Brian, they were talking about secrecy. Right. And the reason that it comes down to it being an emotional affair is because there's a level of secrecy. What I cannot tell my partner because I'm getting this thing over here.
Right.
But, we're human. So we're going to be attracted to other people. That, you don't spend 30, 40 years in a marriage and not ever find anyone else attractive.
Right.
So it's that willingness to be in a place of really accepting your partner where they're at, even when it feels scary. And when you do that with yourself, you can then offer that to that's love. That's what love is, right? Offering that to that other person because you filled yourself up with it. And when it's like that, you can talk about anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think we deny ourselves that privilege in a relationship because we're so busy feeling shameful about our secrets.
And isn't that what intimacy is? I remember my dad would always say, "Into me, see," or "I see you." I mean, Sheila, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with both of you. And I do think that the reason I get so triggered with emotional affairs as a term is it's looking at the symptom and not the underlying cause, right? So it's the lack of communication and transparency in the relationship that will lead somebody to seek intimacy somewhere else in some form, right? Where they can be themselves. If they're not being able to be themselves at home, then they're going to look, because we all want to be understood. And so it's that needing to be transparent with ourselves and to be wanting that, do we want that? Or if you're in a relationship that you're like, okay, we're in this for the family, for the money, for the work, this is a deal, we've got this, do what you want, then do that,
Right.
But if you're in it for intimacy and you're expecting intimacy, you have to show up with intimacy and communication.
I love that. I love that. And, and I mean, again, I would hear, as a young boy when I was working in my parents' office while I was still in college, you see couples come in and out, even of different sexual orientations, and they would all be dealing with this same thing, right? Where the intimacy between them was not strong enough to compensate or get over their own pain. And so they weren't letting each other in to see that pain. They weren't allowing themselves to be truly vulnerable with each other and then accepting each other that way. Because I love, Candice, what you just said. I mean, that's a masterclass, what you were talking about,
Right.
of acceptance. And, there are going to be times at which all of us regardless of whether or not we're in a relationship or not, a romantic relationship or not, when our friends and our loved ones are going to need our support.
Mhm.
And so being able to give that to them, and or a lot, or seeing your partner give that to someone else, for me in my life now, is a turn on. It's like, wow, this person is really caring, really loving, empathetic, compassionate. I mean, it's not that they're taking, by them giving that to someone else doesn't mean that they're taking away from me.
Mm.
Right. It should actually, when you're open-hearted with one area of your life, it should open your heart more to the other areas, right? So if we're closing down outside of the relationship, then it's going to be difficult to open up inside the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're going to be talking about tips in the next segment, but before we get to that, I almost want to ask both of you really quickly, what tips should we be giving? What's the context of the tips? You know, because I think a lot of times the tips are based in the foundation that, oh, this person wronged me.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it might be based in that, mainly because I think, you know, when we do have that paradigm that, you know, we've committed to each other, so there's the supposed tos, right? So it's easy to go into this person wronged me. But I think what we often don't focus on is, what are we committing to? And I think Sheila touched on it a little bit. Like, when we go into a relationship, that clarity of what we're doing
Right.
and what is
Right.
expected and where I'm coming from. Sometimes I think we're afraid to be really authentic and candid about that because we think it'll be a deal breaker for the other person. And we're not okay with, if it's a deal breaker, it's not a sustainable relationship.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, if we can't come to an agreement for how we're going to navigate this thing and what we are committed to in this relationship, then it's okay that means we're not compatible. Right? That's part of compatibility.
But, you know, people don't want to leave. They don't like, I don't want you to leave me.
And that's
You know,
understandable because there's attachment, right? Like, we're human,
right.
we get emotionally attached. But, you know, that's another thing. When I'm so attached that I'm willing to go against what might be a core value. Right?
Right.
Core value is
Right.
communication. I know for myself, joy, ease,
Right.
communication, those are core values. If that's not in a relationship, I'm not in a relationship.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But if I'm so, you know, desperate to have someone in my life that I'm willing to break those core values, what I need to look at is my desperation and what that means for me, where the opportunity for healing is. Right?
I told y'all out there this was going to be a good one today. Listen, we got even more coming up on this topic. We're going to move into some tips to help empower you. You know, I want to say that I think that one of the solution is intimacy. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some tips as well. So we'll be right back with more of This Morning with Soulivity.
You can find all the Satonic products at our Go shop on Solivity at go.solivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Solivity.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity, and we are talking about emotional affairs. And we wanted to make sure that we left you with some empowering words to help you move through a situation where even maybe you're feeling as though you are in an emotional affair, or that you think your partner is. And so just wanted to kind of leave you with some tips on this. So Sheila, what do you think? I mean, we were talking last about, defining this thing, this term, and how do you give tips on it if it's defined a certain way?
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, I would say, I really think whether you're in a situation that you or your friends want to label emotional affair, or before you get in those situations, it's really looking at the relationship. And like Candice said, what do you want to have, and make sure both of you are checking in with each other. Do we still have the same commitment, the same desires for a relationship? Are they changing? Is there room to grow and shift? And how honest are we being? And if you're lying about this, are you lying about other things? Are you, is it easier to just say, I'm going to work, when you're doing something else? Or,
Right.
even innocent things. If there isn't an open honesty, and that's what you're seeking, then you need to start there, regardless of whether there's an emotional affair, so to say, going on. And then there's also the thought that when you are opening up, one thing I don't think that we should do, I personally, this is my belief, but in your own relationships, you decide, but I am really against talking about my relationship with other people, my complaining, if I haven't talked to my partner about it. So if you aren't able to talk to your partner, then seek a therapist. That's who you should be going to, not friends or people to complain or sort through your relationship. I think a therapist or a coach is a good idea.
Yeah. Candy, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Like,
So
tips.
I have an amazing coach who taught me that we're always either acting out of fear or love. Right. So if I'm someone who is experiencing a connection with someone else, and I have a partner at home with whom I have an agreement that is not what, that's not in alignment with what we're trying to do in the relationship, I'm probably afraid to come clean. I'm afraid to be honest, because whatever gratification I might be getting from this other relationship. And so you want to be willing to ask yourself, am I acting out of fear or love? Because when I'm acting out of fear, I'm going to manifest everything I'm afraid of.
Right.
Right. Whether that means hurting that person, hurting the person that I'm connecting with, hurting the person that I made a promise with. And now I'm breaking that promise rather than just, authentically communicating about it and maybe creating a new promise. It's as soon as you ask yourself that question, fear or love, then you open yourself up to being able to connect with your own intuition, because your gut will tell you. Right. You'll get that feeling of like, oh, I'm acting out of fear. Like I'm afraid I'm going to, break up our relationship. I'm afraid I'm going to say or do the wrong thing. I'm afraid somebody might retaliate if I, cut off a connection.
Yeah.
And that's where to start. And then I think that then what Sheila was saying about talking to a therapist, talking to a clinician, if you can't talk to your partner, if you're in such a fear spiral that you don't know how to break out of it, then you need support. And don't think you can be out there doing it by yourself. Find somebody who doesn't have emotional skin in the game to actually support you through navigating it, so that you can get out of the shackles of this fear.
Right. I cannot agree with both of you more. I think that, that there's the old adage of, that God, doesn't, knock you down. God gives you a little whisper, and then, a little tap on the shoulder, and then it's a knockdown, right? The kind of like, hey, are you listening? Are you listening to me? When you're in this kind of situation, you're now into that time, and you cannot do this alone. I think, if you and your partner are both in fear around this whole thing, then you got two fearful people trying to talk to each other and trying to resolve something. That won't happen. All that'll happen is that you'll be arguing, blaming, you're not doing this enough for me, and well, you're not understanding enough, and blah, blah, blah. So you need that third party.
Yeah.
Go get the support that you need. This, and regardless of whether or not, and take the relationship out of the equation, really. This is about both of you just getting to a point at which you can communicate to each other. Then from that place, you can decide or come into awareness around whether or not you even want that relationship to continue. This is a healthy way of starting a process at which you can understand the dynamics of what's going on in your space and in your world. And there's like some other tips, I mean, that I think that's the first and foremost thing. There were some other tips like, maybe give each other space, see the difference between infatuation and love. I mean, these are all things that are important. I think you'll probably read that on many sites, things like that. But I think the first step is exactly what the two of you said. And that is you got to get the emotional content down first so that you can kind of figure out what's going on with you and have somebody support you in that. Because there's a deeper meaning to all this. And I love the fact that both of you kind of talked about that.
I keep hearing the term, it just coming in my head, that honesty and vulnerability is an aphrodisiac.
Oof.
And
y'all bringing it today. I mean, acceptance, and then now this one from you, Sheila. Golly.
So when you think about that, if somebody is opening themselves to vulnerability and honesty, and it's not in it's outside of your relationship, the fact that that person is beginning to open up in that way is a good thing. And it can be brought with honesty and vulnerability in your relationship. You can bring that in, and it can actually make you feel more intimate with each other and more attracted to each other than ever, versus going from the fear and trying to contain it. The more we love, the more love we have to give.
Right. Absolutely.
And recognizing that all of it is a practice, right? So, like I was mentioning earlier, because the ego self will keep coming up.
Right.
And
right. Right.
Yeah. And we got to be willing to give ourselves a lot of grace around all of this. Like, when our expectations aren't met, when we find out that we're, doing something that is against our commitment, like all of that stuff, we got to realize that it's a practice, because we're used to what our ego wants to do, which is just, instantly gratify us and jump from whatever is in front of us to the next thing.
Absolutely.
And letting that ego show in the relationship is also a path to intimacy, right? When we own it.
Exactly. Own it.
Yeah.
Own it. Own it. Listen, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. And when we come back, we'll have some final thoughts from all of us. We'll be right back.
6 years ago, when I started Solivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Wow, such an important topic today on emotional affairs. Candice, any final thoughts from you?
Wow.
Right?
I feel like I could go on about this all day.
I know, right?
So just so there's like a couple, quick bites of takeaways. So understand and know that we do have a need for instant gratification, and that willingness to always be in the inquisition with ourselves. Like, what am I doing here? If I'm upset with my partner because I believe they're having an emotional affair, and I'm going into this, whole story about the victimization of it and how wrong they are and how horrible they are, I always want to be willing to take a moment with myself and say, what is it that I'm afraid of? What is it that I'm expecting? What is it that I'm demanding that my partner give me? And if I'm that person who's caught in between something, I always want to check in with myself. Am I in alignment with what I said I was going to do? And if I'm not, what do I need to do in order to get in alignment with it? And it's not a right or wrong moral question. I know a lot of people out there will say, well, if you're in a marriage, it's immoral to be connected. Right. And that's part of it. We put so much morality on the things that everyone gets shameful. So then I got to keep it secret because I'm ashamed that I broke the rules. Right. When I allow myself to be human, a human being who has desires and needs and wants and, layers of trauma and the society I live in, there's so much that dictates how we behave. I got to be willing to just diffuse all that wrong making and fire and brimstone for a second.
Right.
Let myself be human and then just actually ask myself, what is it that I need in order to get back into alignment with love and not fear.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
All right, Candice.
Thanks, y'all.
Sheila, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
I guess I'm thinking about the fact that, a lot of times we're afraid to break out of the structure of a romantic relationship, like the marriage that you were saying, where there's rules and structure around that. But the more you step out of that into what is right for you, the deeper the relationship gets. And with my current partner, we came into this at a point where both of us have only ever committed to following our own highest good and wanting the other person to do the same. And it has created a space for such deep intimacy and acceptance of intimacy with other people, emotional or friendship, whatever that form is, and not having that hurt the relationship, but enhance it and allow us to just love from a soul level. And I think that it's a beautiful thing and it's a possible thing.
Yeah.
My final thoughts have to do with something that we ended the last segment with, and that is support. Do not wait until there's a situation in your relationship to get support.
Yeah.
Start your relationship with support from the very beginning. There are going to be certain things that are going to come out when you are in a romantic relationship with someone that are not going to come out when you're just kind of like out here alone, because you're now going to another level of vulnerability. And so learn, if you're thinking about marrying somebody, or if you're thinking about, pledging your undying devotion to someone in some certain way, make sure you add into that a process, a practice that both of you do on an ongoing basis. And there are many therapists, there are many structured kind of things out here that can help, things like Imago and other things that are talk about, healing hidden wounds, that will be so supportive to when you're going through times of emotional stress, and they're going to happen. So if they're going to happen, just prepare for them, right? And so get that support. Get that support before stuff starts kind of going awry, and then you'll have a tool in your tool belt. So let's talk a little bit about things that both of you are doing. Sheila, you've got a really, really, really cool thing that's happening right now with, I think, your Soul Connection sessions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, my Soul Connection sessions are sessions which we do either on Zoom or phone, and it's a way of connecting deeper to your own soul, and it can enhance your relationships if you want to explore a deeper relationship with your partner, or to communicate with a loved one on the other side, or to find your spiritual guidance. I'm offering a discount for you here listening to this morning. And it's so if you go to SheilaApplegate.com, you can learn about the session. And then the promo code to get $44 off your first session is capital SOUL, Soul 23.
Nice. I love that. And Candy, of course, you've got a couple of different things. You've got your love coaching first, right?
Yeah. So Love Life Skills for Leaders is my one-on-one intensive, and I help professional BIPOC plus women create a love life that loves us back. 12-week intensive. If you're listening and you use the promo code Solivity50, you'll get 50% off the entire intensive. So that's a nice chunk. And then the other thing is I have a project called it's Homeostasis. I'm calling it the Home Project. And I'm actually calling in stories about home from BIPOC plus women. If you know a BIPOC plus woman, or if you are one, and you have a story, a tumultuous or dynamic or funny or reverent, whatever kind of story about your home experience. And it could be a short story about, throughout your life or something that's going on with you now. I'm calling in these stories. You can go to bit.ly/T, the Home Project 2023. I'm creating a compilation book. Any proceeds from that book will go to creating stability for home stability for BIPOC plus women and young people.
Wow, this is fantastic, y'all. I like that homeostasis. That's kind of
it's homeostasis.
Well, I want to remind people that it is still Women's History Month, and there's a fantastic thing happening here in DC where the first National Women's History Museum is being built right here in DC. And if you can, go to womenshistory.org. Learn more about the museum itself, and even donate. It's a great cause. The museum is going to be fabulous, y'all. I love if you guys can come here and check it out, because it's that it would be worth the trip. It'd be worth the trip.
All right.
Wow. Listen, I hate that this is over.
This is a fun one.
This is a fun one. This is really, really fun. Listen, we do it like this every weekday, y'all. We hope that you come back and join us for another great episode of This Morning with Solivity. We have some fantastic guests that are going to be coming up in the very near future. People like Helene Lerner from womensworking.com is going to be here, and other phenomenal women for Women's History Month. So just, come back, join us at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or 9 a.m. Pacific on KMET 1490 AM for all of you out on the West Coast. Until next time, keep having real conversations that empower with passion and purpose, and create a life full of high quality living today. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.